While the compassionate Buddha resided at the Jetavana monastery, he shared this story to teach a monk who had become infatuated with a young, unmarried woman. The monk's infatuation. There was a girl who, feeling overlooked for marriage, devised a plan to attract a monk who was not firmly rooted in his monastic discipline. She thought, "No one has asked for me. Perhaps I could persuade a monk to leave the monkhood and be with me." One day, while her mother was preparing food for the alms round, the young woman saw an attractive monk passing by. She invited him into their home and offered him food, saying, "Sir, please come here for alms every day. Do not go elsewhere." The monk, drawn in by her charm and her persistent hospitality, began visiting regularly. Over time, the girl's mother noticed the growing bond and said to her daughter, "We have no son or heir in our family. You should convince this monk to stay." With her mother's encouragement, the young woman began using her allure to sway the monk. She played upon his desires and persuaded him to abandon his vows. Though they had not yet physically been together, the monk had already surrendered in his mind and decided to leave the monkhood. The monk's confession. Conflicted by his feelings, the monk returned to his teacher and confessed, "Master, I have disrobed in my heart. I have lost my path." Understanding the severity of the situation, his teacher took him to the Buddha. The Buddha asked the monk, "Is it true that you have become infatuated with a woman?" The monk admitted, "Yes, sir." Buddha inquired further, "What kind of woman has captivated you?" The monk replied, "She is a young woman, untouched by any man, and she has lived her life alone. It is this purity and beauty that has drawn me to her." The Buddha then said, "Bhikkhu, this woman will bring harm to you. This is not the first time you have been led astray by her charms. In a past life, too, you lost your way because of her. But due to the guidance of wise people, you were able to find peace again." The Buddha then began to share a story from a previous life. The past life story. Long ago, when King Brahmadatta ruled Benares, the Bodhisattva lived as a recluse in a forest with his son. One day, the Bodhisattva went out to collect fruit. When he returned that evening, he found that his son had done none of the usual chores. There was no firewood gathered, no water fetched. Concerned, the Bodhisattva asked, "My son, why have you done nothing today? What troubles you?" His son replied, "Father, after you left, a beautiful woman came and captured my heart. She wants me to leave with her, but I told her I must ask for your permission first." The Bodhisattva understood the power of desire and knew that it would be difficult to change his son's mind. "If you feel you must go, then go," he said. "But remember this, when she begins to demand things from you like meat, fish, oil, salt, and rice, think of my teachings and return to me." The son left with the woman and went to live in the city. As time passed, the woman began making constant demands. Each day, she would ask for something new, and the young man, bound by his infatuation, could not refuse her. Gradually, he began to feel used, as though he were nothing more than a servant fetching water from a well. Eventually, overwhelmed and disillusioned, the son left the woman and returned to his father. He bowed before the Bodhisattva and said, "Father, I was content living with you in the forest. But this woman deceived me with her sweet words and beauty. She treated me like a servant, always asking for more. She used me and tricked me with false promises." The Bodhisattva comforted his son, saying, "It is good that you have returned. From now on, think of her with compassion rather than desire. Let go of your attachment and focus on cultivating the four sublime states of mind: loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity." The young man took his father's advice to heart. Through meditation, he developed great spiritual insight and eventually attained deep concentration and wisdom. In time, both father and son were reborn in the Brahma realm, freed from earthly desires. The Buddha's lesson. After recounting this past life, the Buddha explained the moral to the monk. Just as in that life you were led astray by this woman, so too have you been misled now. Her beauty is fleeting, and attachment to it will only bring you suffering. Beauty is only skin deep. It fades and deceives. The Buddha then preached the Dhamma, explaining the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to end suffering. Through this teaching, the monk understood the futility of his desires and attained the first stage of enlightenment, becoming a Sotapanna, one who has entered the stream of liberation. At the end of the sermon, the Buddha revealed that the young woman in the story was the same in this life, and that the monk was the son from the past life. The Bodhisattva, of course, was none other than the Buddha himself. Moral: duty is only skin deep. True peace comes from within.